mankind, when given to his own devices, will devolve into a predator like that. It's shameful.
Hands behind your back. This anything on you shouldn't have like a suit. I see him right now. Hands up! Hands up!
In the Bible, it says Jesus said, "Let the children come to me, because theirs is the kingdom of heaven," right? Yeah. And then the devil is always working, man. Hey, this is Lou Pimber here. Welcome to another episode of Lou Pimber Speaks. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe give the like button. Share this conversation today. I think we're in for a very special treat today. I have a very, very special guest. You might recognize him. If Chuck Norris would have been a Marine or a Navy SEAL, it'd be this guy right here, right? So he's known as probably the most dangerous man alive. He's been a Marine, and a Navy SEAL as well, part of a development group, and I believe even a film advisor and an air marshal. I mean, talk about a man of many hats. But most recently, he's the founder of Veterans for Child Rescue, an organization that's been is very near and dear to him. I want to welcome you, Craig Sawman Sawyer. Thank you for being here today, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be on with you, Lou. Look forward to a good chat.
Man, look, today I want to get into a little bit about, your background. Life is kind of tricky, and we wear many hats, and, life is long, and it's made up of a bunch of days and minutes and seconds. And you've really capitalized on those days, minutes, and seconds, man. It seems like every step along your way, you've had a mission that to go to combat or to share or to be part of something big, man. So I commend you for that. Where are you from originally?
Houston, Texas, just north of there, about 30 miles north of Houston, but in the woods.
Where?
Spring, Conroe, the Woodlands.
Man,
that's all my stomping grounds.
You know what? I'm in Arizona today, but I have a house there. I'm always in Spring. My yacht is in Conroe. So okay. Right on, man. Right on.
That's my stomping grounds. 50 years,
I love it. So when did you join the Marines?
Back in 82.
82.
Yeah. We were there. The oil recession hit there in Houston very hard. Big oil industry, and the recession hit there. And I'd gone to work for a pipe fitters union that a friend of mine's dad ran, and several of us guys that grew up together went to work there. And when that company started to falter and go under, we're like, man, we got to choose a different path. And I was like, man, I've been reading about the Marines, Force Recon, and what a disciplined bunch of professionals they are. And I wanted to go do that because I'd read about King David and the Bible as a boy in Sunday school and learned about what a great warrior he was. And I thought, man, that called to me. So I started off to go to do that, and that's how I got in the Marine Corps.
Right on, man. And so you served in the Marines from 82 to 86 or so?
No, only till 84. I was trying to get over to the Navy. So once I started pursuing Force Recon, the Marine Corps let me know we don't really have any training classes. There's nothing going on with Force Recon. We have a unit that's still called that, but they're not really funded or politically backed, and there's no mission. So we're kind of figuring out what to do with Force Recon right now in the early 80s. And I'm like, well, then shoot, how do I go operate? Well, how do I get my spec ops on?
Right.
And they're like, well, you should have gone, if you're a hardcore, you should have gone to the Navy. Those guys, crazy, and they've got all the funding and the toys and the missions and all that. And I'm like, well, how do I get there from here? And they said, well, you can't. And so that's when I started my process to get out of the Marine Corps and over to the Navy, and the rest is history. Went on and crushed it and had just a fantastic experience with a bunch of really, really world-class warriors that I value those experiences.
Yeah, man. I love when I talk to Americans like yourself who guys like you and I, we put service to our country and our fellow men first, and a lot of people don't understand that today. They don't see it that way, So it's up to men like you and the men and other men like you to really share your stories so that, you know, you can inspire other up and coming warriors that are out there. You know, I hate to say it, we're almost like a dying breed, you know?
Yeah.
And,
it seems so natural and normal to me. That's, like you said, that's the era we grew up in. We loved our freedom, and we knew that it wasn't free, and it was instinctive. We were taught the stories and the history. We understood that you have to defend freedom if you want to keep it.
yep.
And now they don't seem to know that or appreciate it, and that's kind of scary if you really think about the ramifications of what that can mean. But man, I kind of forgot about it. I'm like, okay, I did my thing, and now I'm doing my new thing. And I don't realize how many people are watching until I'll get a father or a grandfather or the son himself and saying, hey, I want to go be like you. I want to go serve. I want to become a Navy SEAL. And what do I need to do? And I find that I'm able to mentor these young men. And what a cool experience that is, that I never set out to be a young aspiring Navy SEAL mentor of any kind, but I find that I can share my experiences with them and motivate them. And it's great when I get to go pin on their trident on the parade deck, right where we all trained, and I still have DNA there. And he's getting pinned on right in the same place, and I'm getting to do it in front of the whole command. Those are bucket list items in life that you don't see coming until you're there. And it's like, this is pretty cool.
Right on, man. I'm sure it's a real honor. You know, one of the things that's going on today in our country is there's just a lack of, you know, second, third layer leadership coming up, especially amongst young men and young women. I don't think we're making enough leaders out there. You know, we're making too many, not enough people who are willing to follow to eventually become a leader. I think that's the crisis that we're facing.
Yeah, you have to be a great follower before you can become a great leader. You have to understand the process and the chain of command and how it all works, you know, as a team. So, you know, I've seen the same thing, Lou, and I'm concerned about it as you are, but I've also had some very wise people caution me and say, don't lose faith so much, Craig, because, you know, historically and biblically, there's a cycle. And when a society gets weak like this, there is a generation that sees it, and they learn as much from what not to do as from what to do. And there are always the strong that rise up and say, I'm not going to live in a tyrannical society. I want something better for my children. And they do rise up. And so it does happen. So yeah, but we need to help them. We need to leave them as much freedom as we can.
Yeah, I think the old saying maybe is kind of true. Good times have created some soft men, right?
Yeah.
And so now we have to create some, we have to be out there and have some faith that there's some hard men that are going to come up and take the mantle and be hard chargers. Yeah, man, my goal when I was raising my kids was, look, I'm raising a daughter, I'm raising a son to become adults, to become leaders. You know, both my kids serve in the military as well. And so I'm very proud of that, you know, and so I want to do my part in being able to create that second, third layer of leadership, man. So I'm glad there's men out there like you. When did you get out of the Navy?
I got out of the Navy in '99 and went into the Air Marshal Service then. There was only 33 Air Marshals at the time.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty good unit to be a part of. The people were good. The mission was legit. The training was really good for a federal law enforcement agency. The pistol training qualification course was the hardest anywhere in law enforcement. And so I did that for 5 years. And then whole long story, I ran into some corruption, you know, some stuff that we're seeing more commonly now.
I see.
A senior level executive, SES level executive, he happened to come from the top of the FBI. And I ended up having to blow the whistle on him. But he was well protected, as all SES level executives are.
Yeah.
They rallied the troops around him, but the truth came out, and they eventually, 2.5 years later, they fired him for gross mismanagement and retaliation, which is exactly what I'd reported him for.
Wow.
But I'd already moved on by then, because after I reported him, they let him know, and he began retaliating against me, which is another crime. So I went on. Sure. I just left, and I started doing high threat mobile security contracting for the Department of State and the intelligence community. So protecting our diplomats and intelligence community officials over in the war zones, moving them around the country, keeping them out of an orange jumpsuit.
Hey, look, guys like you can't just sit around, man.
No,
you can't just sit around. Look, We are many years ago. I met Lieutenant Colonel Grossman, and from him I learned the term sheepdogs.
Yeah.
You know, we're the protectors. We are vicious. We can fight. We can shoot, and we know violence. But our job isn't to harm the sheep. Our job is to protect them. And so you're a sheepdog all the way through, man. All the way through.
Yeah.
Our paths.
As are you. As
Yeah.
are you.
Yeah. Hey, look, our paths have almost crossed a few times because you've been in the film industry, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And so there was I was at a table in the industry. They call it a table read, where you read a script at a table, and you were supposed to be there, and then I was there, and then I think you ended up going, and I didn't make it that time. And I'm not sure what happened with that film, but I've been looking forward to meeting you, man, because I've admired your work and what you've been doing. And I also heard it from a very good, credible source that you are the most qualified man out there to combat child trafficking, man.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say that I have a passion for doing everything that I can to stop the industrial scale harm to the children.
Yeah.
Because look, I'm a hard dude, or I couldn't have gone where I did and done all that I did.
Yeah.
But I have a soft spot for kids, and it kills me. I cannot look away. Once I learned how big this is right under our noses, forget going to foreign countries. You know, 60 countries I've been to around the world. I'm done going somewhere else to stop the boogeyman from coming here when the boogeyman has been here for too long, preying upon our children. If you've got a $38 to $50 billion a year criminal enterprise trafficking children for sex and organ harvesting and whatever else they do to them here in the continental United States, why on earth are we deploying anywhere else?
Yeah.
We've got an industrial scale crime. It's unthinkably abusive. It comes from a very dark place, very sick minds. And I just can't turn away from it. A friend of mine from the CIA let me know that the area just basically where he grew up in Tomball, but right through there and across 1960 in North Harris County, he said, Craig, this is the worst area for child trafficking in the United States.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, what does that look like, bro? I mean, what are we talking about? Our culture is so counter to harming a child in any way.
Right.
We're patriots. We are pretty much a Christian society there. We're pipe hitting manly men, and we're traditional values there, very much so. So what's up with this? What does it look like? He goes, Craig, we're talking about, in some cases, maybe a nice home in a very well-to-do neighborhood, but there are dog kennels in some of the bedrooms with children in them. And they're running a brothel, but the child gets taken out and raped and put back in. Wow. And they run this for a matter of months until they rotate to another location, or there's the back of restaurants where children are kept in closets or cages, or there's a lot of different scenarios, but all of it's bad for the kids. And why on earth did we get to where we were wired to have sex with the little ones that can't defend themselves in the first place? And that's part of why I filmed Contraland, is to alert the populace on how that came about. You know,
I think at the core, man, I think that it's just slowly the degradation of just values, the taking out of God in schools, lowering standards and accepting lower standards. That just allowed people who think like that, allowed them to rear their ugly head and prey upon the most innocent people out there, are the children. You know, it just breaks my heart. Every year, from what I understand, about 840,000 children go missing in the United States.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's concerning. We get much more spun up about issues that cause a lot less harm than this one, but this one is protected. And Lou, it's sickening and creepy to see how much the big tech industry, the mainstream news media, and big Hollywood will bend over backwards to keep this quiet, because so many of their friends and colleagues or their money stream kind of depends on this industry. And I didn't realize it at first. And when we started getting into it, I'm realizing that now, we know that Harvey Weinstein big Hollywood. We know about those kind of stories in the casting couch and all of those scenarios. And I know friends that have been on that casting couch, and I know handsome male actors that have at big executives' mansions, and they were expected to go upstairs and have sex with an executive of a major studio in order to get the next big leading role.
Yeah.
It's just how it's done there. So, and then we know about Jeffrey Epstein, and we know about Ghislaine Maxwell and who they cater to, the global elite, and how their clients are protected. When you and I wouldn't be protected, man. If I get caught speeding or something, man, I'm going down. Ain't nobody protecting me. So why is there a two-layered system?
Yeah.
We the people, I'll say this and I'll shut up and let you speak again. Running social media and having as many as 500 followers on a bunch of different platforms together, I kind of get the ebb and flow of what people are thinking and feeling. And whenever I talk about topics where there's a lack of justice, a lack of accountability for these abusive crimes, there's the overwhelming response back, Lou, of people going, yes, yes. And I can tell that they feel like I do. They are starved for justice. They need to see these big elite crooks that are stomping on millions of lives and getting away with it. They need to see them held to account like you or I would be, so that the system works and the little ones are protected and all the other innocent are protected. So we don't have that. Our system of justice is breaking down. And I think it's really accelerating that degradation of our society.
You know, if I put on my cynical hat, right, and I think, you know, I spent many years in the drug war, right, combating as an undercover agent, right, undercover officer. When I compare the efforts in that arena versus the efforts in our most precious commodity, which is our children, it isn't the same.
No,
it isn't the same. And if I'm cynical about it, it's because there's money to be made on the drug war where there's no money to be made on the defense of our children. Here's what I mean by that. We'd conduct undercover operations, and we would seize assets, we would seize homes, we would seize bank accounts, cars, properties.
Yeah.
Over here, we catch a molester or trafficker of children, we just get a bad guy.
Right.
And I hope I am wrong, but I think of that sometimes. And I don't know what your thoughts on that. What do you think?
No, I think that's a valid point. I hadn't really considered it that way, but you're right. A lot of these big drug lords, that's in the early days of the SEAL team I was on, that's where we got our offshore racing boats. Customs would take all these big racing boats from the drug lords and capture and these big seizures, and they'd give them to us, and we'd camouflage them and soup them up even more and use them for, counter-terrorist operations. And then we developed our whole boat program from that. But I could see where those trafficking children probably wouldn't have that much in assets on hand. So there may not be that much to seize and benefit that agency in that recovery. But my God, even just if you just look at it as a species.
Yeah.
Lou, you know as well as I do, you put your arm into a cub, into a small hole in the ground, a cave where a mama bear's got cubs in there. You try to grab one of those little cubs, you're going to pull back nothing but a bare bone, a bare nub, right?
Yep.
Try to go get a lion cub from the mom and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Why are we as humans any less defensive of our offspring? It's shameful. It makes me ashamed of us as a species that mankind, when given to his own devices, will devolve into a predator like that. It's shameful. It really, look, there is such a thing as evil. A lot of people, they're like, well, I'm not into religion. Well, okay, you don't have to be into religion to realize there's something spiritual about humans and the inclination to do good or bad. Those initial instincts come from somewhere.
Yeah, you're born with it.
I'm telling you, man, the deeper I get into this, the more I know that it's how things work, because I'm dealing with it. I'm dealing with the surviving victims, dealing with the perpetrators and the people who help heal the victims. and all the healing seems to be coming from those that are tied into Jesus Christ. And it's just all the beautiful and positive things seem to be coming from one direction, and all the negative and the poison and the destruction and the death coming from the other. It's so distinctly tangible now in this.
It's a constant
different
war.
way to fight.
It's a constant war. You're right. It's a constant war against good versus evil. Because even in the Bible, it says, Jesus said, "Let the children come to me, because theirs is the kingdom of heaven," right? Yeah. And then the devil is always working, man, and he's always on duty, and he's always there. Yeah, man, like I can feel the passion in what you're sharing. And when I watched Contraland, which, by the way, I think everybody should watch that, I realized, my God, man, like we need to get this word out so that people know we need to protect our children. We need to protect it. It takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a village to protect our children. They're our next generation, man. And so tell me a little bit about the Viper team and Veterans for Child Rescue.
Yeah, well, I founded Vets for Child Rescue out of practical necessity. All I wanted to do, Lou, was compromise the enemy's mission. And by compromise it, I mean expose it. You understand, doing UC work, if you're undercover, you don't want to get compromised. You don't want your opposition to understand who you are and what you're up to.
Right.
Well, I've done a lot in the covert world as well, different than you perhaps, but I understand the value of the element of surprise and the benefit of having your enemy not know that you're there and what you're up to. So I very much saw that the biggest thing that I could do is just a busted up veteran and father now here as civilian. I don't have, Spectre gunship overhead on radio. I don't have F-18s on station. I don't have Apache gunships to call in over the ridge line and all the things that we used to have. Yeah. What do I have now? So I'm taking inventory of my tools as a citizen. What can I do? And I realized I can take a camera, figuratively speaking, but bring in a crew and film a documentary and show the American populace what they need to know about what's really going on that I couldn't cause them to believe if I just told them what I'm seeing, right? It's hard to get somebody to believe something that's very painful and very inconvenient to learn, because it was very painful for me to learn. So I founded it to fund the documentary so I could make the documentary and bring the American people the understanding of what's happening with child trafficking, where it came from, what it looks like, how to spot it, maybe some things that we can do. And because I want to change the culture back to one that's fiercely defensive of the precious and innocent children. For
sure, man. You spent some time with your guys out here in Arizona in the VCO Valley, I believe it's called VCO Valley. Yeah. And what I didn't realize was nearly 75,000 kids went missing through that border area.
Well, that's a really hotly traveled area, as is down, another right here through the reservation by Picacho Peak. They come pouring through that ranch as well, and down in Arivaca. So some of what you saw in Contraland was down in Arivaca. Yeah. It's up in the mountains there. That's rough terrain, man.
Yeah, I recognized it. Now, if you know how much of because it isn't just kids coming from, because obviously we have a very porous border out there, and you guys showed some of that. But how much is it kids being smuggled from south to north versus from north to south? Any idea?
It's not. In the United States, it's not as much of an international thing as I think the populace assume that it is. Most of the children, by my experience so far, and I'm learning every day, Louis, I know by no means learned it all yet. Yeah. But they're American-born children. A lot of them in the foster care system, they get handed off from family to family, and then eventually off the books. And then they end up in the pedophile pipeline, it's referred to, and they're just bought and sold like another commodity. Take this child out, rape him, torture him, take his organs, murder him, whatever you want, bury him in a hole, burn him. It's just it's not something I thought I would ever run into here. It's runaways. It's parents selling their children. In some cases, I thought that was just in third world countries. No, that happens here. You got the cracked out moms that'll sell their children, and just people that are not mentally well, or there's just very weak moral character will give up their children to predators. There's a number of ways that it happens. And even now, children selling themselves, they start learning from all this perversion online and the movies and the apps and their phones and things like that. And they start selling themselves to make money. And the next thing you know, they end up in a very dark place, and drugs become involved, and they lose control of everything. And next thing you know, they're strung out and they're dead somewhere, or they take their life.
There's so many layers that in this. There's so many layers. There's the part where there's the innocent child who gets abducted. There's the one who gets, pimped out, for lack of a better term, by their parents. You know what I mean? Then there's the one who through ignorance or through the desensitization through video games and their associations, it may end up in that world. There's so many layers there. But in the end, man, I think the root cause is there's a lack of a lot of times there's a lack of fathers in the family. Yeah. There's a lack of parenting in general. There's a lack of moral and ethics in people, I think. Just a lack of God in a lot of people, and so it's a big war, man. It's a big war. And some of these kids, I think it's in your movie, you talk about nearly 30,000 of these kids are die. They're either found or they die, many from suicide, from disease, and so it's a big problem. And the people who are watching this today, you got to pay close attention. You got to watch our kids, just like you said, like that mama bear. Yeah. Got to keep them close, man.
Yeah. We got to be better than, we can't look down on animals if they're more defensive of their offspring than we are. Right. Yeah. So are we better than a coyote out back,
Yeah.
Because they'll defend their little ones.
On that note, sometimes it seems our government will put more effort to protect the baby, tortoise than it is to protect their own babies.
Yeah. Things have gotten very twisted as far as the priorities. And you mentioned the W word a while ago, war. You said it's a war.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. You're right in the dead center X-ring bullseye, because we look at it from, like you said, there's different layers to it. Yeah, it's criminal. It's spiritual. Ultimately, it's a spiritual war.
For sure, without a doubt.
And people want to politicize it and say, well, it's got to be okay because I'm in this political party to rape children, or it's not okay because I'm in that political party. And I say we can't allow it to be politicized, because really this is an international war. This is a war to overthrow the United States. And when you read through the history and you understand what the enemy's playbook is, they mean to demoralize the populace, right, so that they can destabilize the populace as a method of softening the target before they usher in the big mechanism of totalitarian, tyrannical control that they've been after since before I was born. Yeah. So it was read before Congress in 1958 that the enemy's playbook, the list of the things that they meant to do. And some of those things were take over academia, take over the news media, get heavy influence in both political parties, and start degrading the family unit, start demonizing, essentially discrediting our founding fathers, start erasing the history, so that all of that is to get rid of the strength, the fabric that makes the American populace a united, healthy, grounded, fiercely defensive and patriotic, unified populace that's impossible to overthrow.
Well, look, man.
So they had to break that down. And that's why they want the family unit destroyed. Why they want God out of schools. That's why they want you to hate me and me to hate you, because pick a number of reasons. Yeah. He's in the tall group. He's in the short group. He's in the fat group, he's in the skinny group, he's in the brown or yellow or orange or purple or green or that block or this block or that side of town and this side. Every way that they can divide the American populace, they're doing it. And sadly, so many people are falling for it and turning on each other. And I'm like, folks, united we stand.
That's right.
We are one nation, hopefully still under God, because that's what gave us the principles of having this level of freedom. Nowhere on earth do they allow the level of freedom that the American people have had. That this experiment that was our constitutional republic is the boldest experiment in the freedom of citizens ever attempted. And it's been beautiful, but typically freedom only lasts so long before the globalists, the big power brokers, the tyrants find a way to undermine it and even take that back under control and crush it as well.
Look, as long as there are men like you and your buddies and men like me, we're going to push back. And they're not going to take it.
Who are we if we don't?
Damn
What did we serve to protect, Lou?
That's right.
If not the most precious and innocent.
That's right.
What were we fighting for? Who was behind us that we loved, that caused us to stand up and risk our lives, if not the little precious children and those that can't defend themselves? So we have to do it. You
guys, speaking of being proactive in this, you guys went out and put together some pretty cool sting operations out in different parts of the country, man. I watched some of that. You collaborated with some PDs, with some prosecutors, and your daughter was one of the undercover ops there. You know, that was pretty awesome. I watched that, and you guys expose a lot of evil in the communities, man. I definitely urge people to watch Contraland.
After posting online ads for sex with a young girl, they received the first response within 15 minutes. Within 30 days, they received over 5,000 responses.
That's why I kept
locally.
Not like hassling you, but I just wanted to make sure that I was all right, because there ain't nothing in this world worth my freedom, you know?
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. It's a risk putting an ad like that out on Craigslist.
Yeah.
So I hope you don't mind that I actually invited somebody to come along.
How you doing?
Well, if you let me know what you got in mind, maybe I can be of assistance. All right. Well, what drove you here today? What made you decide, okay, I'm gonna come and do this?
Nothing. Just like I said, man. I'm sorry.
Keep your hands out of your pockets.
No. And even when I first walked in, I felt a little awkward.
Yeah. Well, I think you felt awkward because you've been a bit of a bad boy.
Bad boy. That's the code word.
Yeah, and I'm...
Stand up right now. Hands behind your back.
Yes, sir.
Do it now.
Yes, sir.
Turn in.
You guys exposed people from all walks of life responding to ads of sex with a minor. Yeah. That in and of itself is already a felony. There's no money involved. You just got to respond to that. That's it.
Yeah.
That was incredible, man. And thank you for doing that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, it felt right because the average number of children that a pedophile harms or destroys in his life is 70. Some of them get caught the first time. Some never get caught because they love to get themselves into positions of access to children, especially unsupervised access. And they abuse the public trust in those positions to molest and rape the children. And it shatters their little minds. So it's something that we cannot allow. So the average number is 70 children. So every arrest that we make, every child predator that we take off the streets and put in a box to rape no more represents an average of 70 children that will not be harmed by that one.
Wow. So
it feels good as those arrests rack up. And, we've got other templates that we've developed since then. And the public will start seeing more of those very soon. And as we've grown, there have been DoD level assets that have been made available to us, and software and investigating capability and intel and on and on and on. So that's the Viper team is really an eclectic mix of guys from different units that I've served with over the years, whether it be in the intel agencies or the counterterrorism realm, Navy SEALs, or other guys that were snipers from spec ops units that I've been on contracts with. But these are old friends that I've known and I trust with my life.
Yeah.
And I don't need a lot of them, but there's just a handful of guys. And I know, there's probably 50-ish guys that I would really like to use, but quite frankly, I don't need most of them. The type of operations that we do are mostly investigative. So really it's a lot of online and phone sleuthing and dealing with the predators and the groups and all of that. And the law enforcement provide a lot of the, we let them provide the arrest team.
Yeah.
That's a wise model. And so my guys, in high threat areas down on the border and stuff like that, I can bring tier 1 level snipers with the night vision and all that kind of stuff that can post up and respond to any QRF type scenarios or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, the law enforcement surveillance are spread out around us, and that's how we handle it. So now reach to different guys for different ops.
Now, Veterans for Child Rescue, is there a website? Is it veteransforchildrescue.org or what is it?
It's vets for the number 4 childrescue.org.
Now, is it somewhere where people can donate to it to help keep the mission?
Yeah, man. Yeah, because we are a 501c3, and the only thing that we can do is what we can afford with the donations that the people help us with. So there's a donate page, and there's, I think, buttons on each page where they can just click on that, and it's a secure donor box function that they control. We don't control it. The donor controls that. Yeah. The secure third-party corporation that runs those, and it works really well. So
now, there's the old phrase, see something, say something, right? When it comes to, child trafficking and smuggling of children, molestation, all that sort of stuff, what should people look out for? The average Joe, the neighbor, what should they look out for?
Yeah, they should look for a child that doesn't look like they belong. And now we've been so beat down with political correctness, and you feel like you're not allowed to notice what's going on. Well, how convenient for the enemy, right? Yeah. How convenient for the traffickers and the dope runners and everybody else if our society's beat into oblivion and doesn't feel welcome to pay attention. Right. Mind your own business. My wife hates that term, mind your own business, because if people would not have minded their own business, my wife wouldn't have been put through what she was put through. Mm-hmm. And when our daughter was taken, she felt like there was a lot of people that saw them, and she was hoping would have helped, and they minded their own business, and the harm continued. So what can they look for? They can look for children that don't look happy. Maybe they don't look that well cared for, and they might look like they're being moved. We're talking about traveling with somebody that does not seem to be their parent or loving guardian. Yeah. And I'm not saying go full tackleberry and tackle somebody and start pounding them into oblivion and asking them if they're the father or mother. But you can assert yourself in a respectful way and start up a conversation and try to get in there and find out, through verbal judo, ask them if, just some nice question. How are you today? And see if you can ascertain whether or not this is a healthy situation. And you can look at a lot of the children that are being trafficked. For them, it's a business. They may have multiple cell phones. They may have a lot of expensive things that it doesn't look like they could afford. But, let's say a child looks like they're with a loving family, and it's a wealthy family, and mom's all decked out and dad's, looking sharp. Then it makes sense for the little girl to have all these expensive things. But if she looks otherwise poor, she pulls out a huge wad of cash to pay for something, or if she's got a brand on her neck or things like that, or especially if they're being moved in and out of hotel rooms or Airbnb in towns where it's Super Bowl or Formula One racing or big, golf events or things like that. Any events where you have tens or hundreds of thousands of men converging on a city, start looking for children, because the sex industry is going to respond to that, and a portion of that is children.
That's a good point.
Look out for the little ones during the and surrounding
And
those.
you mentioned the branding. That's something that where the perpetrator would brand the young child, the young boy, the young girl with a tattoo.
Yeah, Lou,
Right?
it's down to that. And we're talking about
Like animals, like a slave.
Cattle too. Sometimes a stamp, a burned brand, a raised scar with the pimp's barcode or a crown or whatever his emblem is, or his name even.
Yeah.
On the lower their lower back, or the back of their neck, or a tattoo, like you said.
Yep.
Is more common.
Yep.
Any of those things.
Yep.
So it's just ugly. So one of our partner orgs removes those as a way to get that mark and indicator off of that young one, so that he or she can heal up and further go on the rest of their life without that filth on them, you know.
Man, you know, how can those who see this, how can they help veterans for child rescue? What can they do?
Yeah, well, they could. First thing is go to the website,
Okay.
vetsforchildrescue.org, or they can go to contralandmovie.com.
Okay.
Watch our documentary. It's a free film. It's a high quality film.
Yep.
And it's offered in good faith to empower you, the viewer. So once people watch it, we encourage them to share that with everybody they care about, especially the biggest names with the biggest reach, that may be able to put it in the hands of other power players, if you will, because we want everybody to know about this. And then both of those websites are connected. So there's a lot of tools in there on how to safeguard your child, how to teach your child how to stay out of trouble on their apps, on their phones, on their apps, and their Xboxes, and all these other things. And hound your elected officials for stronger protections for the little ones, stronger laws, and stronger penalties against the predators. It can't be a slap on the wrist anymore. Some of these towns and cities, the DAs are funded by a very nefarious globalist billionaire who funds their campaigns and helps get them in power, so that they will not prosecute child rape and child sex crimes. They won't prosecute the predators. So we need to identify them through their track record and their donations record, and vote them out and replace them with people that will serve and protect their community in good faith. We need more children are worthy.
We need more men at the ready to do harm to protect our kids. We need more men like that.
Your own business.
Right.
I am my brother's keeper. Let's all feel a little bit more empowered to look after the little ones. There's a right and respectful way to do it, but don't turn a blind eye to harm anymore.
Man, look, Craig, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me today. It's an honor for me to share your story and your new mission today. You know, you've served many missions throughout your lifetime. And I have a lot of respect and admiration for people like you who do that. And may God continue to bless you, my friend. And as you progress in your mission of protecting our children, you know, and I'm going to do my part to get the word out as much as possible. And if there's anything else that I can do, man, you know how to reach me, LouPimber@gmail. And again, it's an honor. Thank you for your service to our nation. Thank you to our service for our country. And now thank you for your service to our children, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Lou. Well, look, thank you as well, man, because you've just become part of the solution by helping amplify the truth. And there's so many people that would want to act as gatekeepers and keep the populace from knowing it. So bless you, brother,
thank you, man,
for stepping up and having the moral courage to amplify the truth and empower the people. So, hey, together we are what we can't be alone.
Yes,
right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
We can be a society that defends the children.
Amen. All right, brother. Thank you so much, man. Let's keep fighting a good fight.
Yeah, man. Will do.
Guys, make sure you guys check out Contraland. Make sure you guys share that movie. Make sure you keep an eye on your kids, man. All right. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Appreciate you. Make sure you like and subscribe. And may God continue to bless you and your family.